exceptionally well, and we are so grateful.
All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning. This morning brings us into our first Sunday of this particular month of November. Oh, this year is almost over with already. All right, so today is Sunday, November the 2nd. We are in lesson 9, and the title of our lesson is we're still talking about Jeremiah. We're talking about Jeremiah's rescue today. Our devotional reading comes from Romans, the 13th chapter, the 1st through the 10th verses. Our background scripture is Jeremiah, the 20th chapter, the 1st through the 6th, the 37th chapter, the 1st through 38th verses, the 28th chapter in its entirety, and the 43rd chapter, 1st through the 7th verses. All right, and our printed text comes from Jeremiah, the 38th chapter, the 7th through the 13th verses. And it reads, But Abimelech, a Cushite, an official in the royal palace, heard that they had put Jeremiah into the cistern. While the king was sitting at the Benjamin gate, Abimelech went out of the palace and said to him, My lord, the king, these men have acted wickedly in all they have done to Jeremiah the prophet. They have thrown him into a cistern where he will starve to death, where there is no longer any bread in the city. When there is no longer any bread in the city. Then the king commanded Abimelech the Cushite, Take 30 men from here with you and lift Jeremiah the prophet out of the cistern before he dies. So Abimelech took the men with him and went to a room under the treasury in the palace. He took some old rags and worn out clothes from there and let them down with ropes to Jeremiah in the cistern. Abimelech the Cushite said to Jeremiah, Put these old rags and worn out clothes under your arms to pad the ropes. Jeremiah did so. And they pulled him up with the ropes and lifted him out of the cistern, and Jeremiah remained in the courtyard of the guard. And our key text reads, Then the king commanded Abimelech the Cushite, Take 30 men from here with you and lift Jeremiah the prophet out of the cistern before he dies. That's Jeremiah's 38th chapter and the 10th verse. All right. So, after reading just that, I was like, okay, this is a good, cool king. He was looking out for Jeremiah. But as we read later on into it, we'll begin to discover or unearth something else. All right, so our lesson context does come in with Abimelech. Our lesson does start with Abimelech going to the king to let him know what had happened. But what the background is telling us is that Abimelech, that he and Jeremiah had like a not so good relationship. He needed Jeremiah so Jeremiah could tell him what was going on, but he didn't like what the word of the Lord was telling Jeremiah to tell him. So he didn't like him because of that. All right, and then the king, it says that Jehoiakim's 20-year-old uncle took his place, changing his name from Matanan to Zedekiah, which is the king, which means the Lord is righteous. But Zedekiah did not honor the Lord. So when I said that, I said it's a lot of people that give these kids these names. As a teacher, I know it. I'm like, almost every child that has a biblical name and it's supposed to mean something righteous. Why do y'all act like this? So I'll be like, if I get a Moses in my classroom and Zechariah is the number one name, I'm sorry, any Zechariah that's out there. But that Zechariah, that Moses, nope, Christian, and Messiah. I'm like, oh my goodness. And I asked Leah last night, I said, Leah, you go to school with Messiahs? She said, yes. I said, how they act? She's like, oh, Mom. I said, okay, so it ain't just me. So I'm like, y'all, when we give children names, we need to give them something that they can uphold to, or at least tell them what it means, so maybe they can walk in the right path. But I'm like, all these biblical names, and when I find it, sorry, sometimes I just walk away and be like, okay, it is what it is. I already know what this is about to be about. And I'm like, it's not stereotyping, but it's just what I've seen. So, but the same thing happened to this king. His name was changed to Zedekiah, but it says the Lord is righteous. But every time Jeremiah would tell him what the Lord was saying, he would get upset and mad with him. And I'm like, but if the Lord is righteous and Jeremiah is telling you what the Lord has said, even if it offends you, you should not get mad because the truth is the truth. Like, that's what it is. He's telling you what to do. He's telling you the correct way to do it and what you should do if you want to be spared, or if you want happiness, what you should do. But he didn't want to hear that. And that was King Zedekiah. I'm sorry, Ebed-Melech was a good guy. All right, so it brings us into this relationship that they were, the last verse right before it gets to today, it says, all in all, Jeremiah is seen as a threat to the vested interests of the leaders of Judah and Jerusalem as he opposes their attitude and practices again and again. One example of his criticism is reenslaving free slaves. Now, well, they were slaves one time, why we can't put them back in there? No, they're free, like, no. And Jeremiah's like, no, we can't do this. All right, it says, which is a violation of the law of Moses. It is all led up to the point of being cast into a dungeon to die slowly of dehydration and malnutrition, the harshest punishment yet. So we're going to read that even though he and this king don't have this good relationship, the king is not going to give the order directly. All right, it says, but Ebed-Melech, a Cushite, an official in the royal palace, heard that they had put Jeremiah into a cistern. Y'all actually had a picture of a cistern I supposed to been put on the back of that paper, but I didn't. So when I did look it up, if you can imagine a really, really deep well, like a well that you just dug a hole into the ground, it was a cistern was meant to keep water for them. So it was like something they dug in the ground to keep rainwater, for them to run out from the rainwater so they would have water. So it was really, really deep. Like, it was just straight down deep. And it wasn't like a little deep or like 6 feet deep where you can like climb your way out of it. It was super deep. So once you got down there, you were there. All right. And so even to put him down there, it says, I think I was reading the verses before then, they didn't just throw him in there. They had to lower him in there with the ropes and stuff. So they had to actually lower him down in there. And I thought about it, if you truly wanted him dead, why you just push him in there? But then if you'd pushed him in there, he probably would have died, and then he wouldn't have suffered like you wanted him to suffer. So they like just lowered him down in there with the ropes. The verses before that tells you that I did not read today. All right, so Jeremiah's, I'm sorry, that's what I just told y'all. It was reading about, it says, we might imagine that they got an idea from Genesis, the 37th chapter, the 18th through the 23rd verses. That's when Joseph's brothers were getting ready to put him in a cistern. Or did they? Yeah, they did. They put him in a cistern, but then when they saw this caravan coming by, they was like, why leave him in that cistern when we can just sell them? So they were like that these people probably got their idea from what happened in Genesis. That's why I made that note over there. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, so it wasn't like it was a new thing, but it was, when you think about it, to be in basically a hole in the ground down there where there is nothing. Apparently you're probably getting no light. You most definitely ain't finna feed you. And they usually have like a cover or something over it. So you just down there suffering a long, horrible death by yourself. And so that is what these people wanted to inflict upon Jeremiah, just as Joseph's brothers wanted to inflict upon him. And it's because of, well, with Joseph, it was jealousy. With Jeremiah, it's like, man, this guy's not letting us have our way. We're not able to do what we want to do, so we need to get rid of him. He's a problem. All right? And so it says just to even try to climb up to the top would be impossible. It's a hopeless situation, because if you can imagine, even if you're standing just outside in a puddle of mud out there, if you make the wrong step, your foot gonna sink. And then you just got to keep stepping to hopefully you can get to something a little bit more solid to help you get up. That's how Jeremiah was. It's like, nah. It was like no hopeless. It says, so perhaps Jeremiah's friends might notice his disappearance, but his corpse might not be discovered for months or if ever, because nobody knew where he took them to. All right? So it's like, when you're like, oh, I ain't heard from that person in a long time. Sometimes it'll cross your mind to go check on them, and sometimes you're like, oh, I'll check on them later, or maybe they just here, or maybe they just there. And so Jeremiah probably was hoping that some of his friends would do that. Then he was like, well, they still ain't going to know where to begin to look for me at. All right, it says the word Ebed-Melech means the servant of the king. Thus, this may be the man's job description rather than his personal name. So it went on to talk some more about Ebed-Melech, and in order for him to like notice it, and it says that in the next verse we're gonna read that he's finna go tell the king. He had to have some power, because just anybody can speak to the king or run up to the king and go tell him, hey, look what's going on here. So we had to assume that Ebed-Melech, not that it was his name, but the title that he had, he went to go talk to the king. And then said, while the king was sitting at the Benjamin gate. I tried to look for some pictures of the Benjamin gate. I saw a sheep gate. I saw a whole bunch of gates. But I wasn't really for sure which one of those gates were the Benjamin gate or where it was located at. But they had gates for everything. And so I'm like, okay. So, but I didn't see the Benjamin gate. Did you know what the Benjamin gate was? Not really. I couldn't. I looked for it. I couldn't see it. But to go in the cities, they had multiple different gates. Like if you want to bring your sheep in here, you bring your cattle in here. They had like just really multiple gates around the whole city. And I kind of like applauded them. I'm like, okay, so they did have a system going on that we would have certain things coming through this gate, certain things coming through this gate, and certain things coming through this gate. But right here, while the king was sitting at the Benjamin gate, and so, but being that I know that he was at a gate is the entrance to the city. So we got the king that's sitting somewhere at the entrance to a city. All right? And so it says that some gates had benches for elders, the community to sit and render judgments. Gates were gathering place for those seeking authoritative rulings or legal matters. King Zedekiah was at the gate, presumably to administer judgment in his official capacity. Thus his servants knew where to find him, so he can go seek an audience like the other citizens of Jerusalem. So the king was there, like they said, more than likely to pass judgment, and I'm pretty sure he had to come out the palace at some time to be available for the people. So this is probably where he went to go be available for the people. So when they need to go pass judgment or say, hey, this right here happened, they took my sheep, they took my cattle without permission, what do you think, should do? So for him to render judgment. It says, Ebed-Melech went out of the palace and said to him. So Ebed-Melech went to go find him because he's like, okay, even though I'm pretty sure you gave the order to do it, but they didn't say you did, let me go find you and go start to talk to you. It says he approaches the man who had given a tacit approval. And a tacit approval is an understood or impliement without being said. Kind of like when you know your mama or you have to get your kids say, look, you ain't got to say nothing. You can just look at them. And I ain't said nothing, but you understood that you either need to act right, you need to get in line, you need to go over there and sit down. You already know whatever you need to do, and your parents don't have to say anything to you. So that's what a tacit approval is. So something that is tacit is, I ain't got to say nothing. I done told you, you already know what to do. So being that I have maybe said, the cookies are in there to eat. I ain't told you to go eat them, but your daddy told you can't eat them, but they in there on the counter. So it's up to you what you do after that. And so that is also tacit. Like, I'm not going to tell you to go do it, but hey, it is over there if you want to go do it. But I ain't going to tell you to do it. All right, so this approach takes place in a public venue where the witnesses will hear an official response. It could be that Ebed-Melech suspects that the king is willing to let Jeremiah die, but admitted it publicly is another matter. So that is why Ebed-Melech did not let the king get back to the palace. He went out here to him and at this Benjamin gate where it's really public. And this is what he says to him. My lord the king, these men have acted wickedly in all they have done to Jeremiah the prophet. They have thrown him to a cistern where he was starved to death when there is no longer any bread in the city. So what's the first thing we do as people when folks approach us with words like these and they and him and her? Who are they? Who are him? Who is her? I need names. But we're going to read later on. So he went and approached him to say, hey, these wicked men, because I'm pretty sure he knew who they were. But if I start calling names, all these people in public going to know that these people are associated with you. So you had to get an order. But in order for him to keep things down and let the king remain in his standing and keep his authoritative power and what was going on, he said, these men. So he went to the king and said that not to embarrass the king because, like you said, I'm pretty sure that he knew who did it because in the verses prior to this, it does give the names of the people who did it. And they were princes and princesses. So you think that the king did not know who them people were? He knew. So he said, these men. So he is saying that too to actually kind of like throw the other people off to let them know, hey, it's people out here acting wickedly. Not necessarily your people, not necessarily you gave the order, but it's people out here doing bad things. All right? So after that, he came back. Oh, snap, I'm on number 10 already. Any questions or comments? I did. Yes, look at what I did. And like, but you created it. Yes, that it is very true what we have going on here today, or created, and I'm pretty sure our leader, president, whatever he is today, he is 100% saying he is very tested in all that he does. He might not be saying things directly, but he puts things in these people's minds, and when they do it, it's like, oh, okay. So even though he's not maybe doing it directly, and it's to me, it's that indirect, because you are in the position of leadership, and you basically give me the okay. You don't tell me to do it. You don't tell me not to do it, but you are giving what I want to do, whether it's good or bad or helpful for the people, the okay by not saying anything, by not saying you better not go do that. It's like you're allowing things to happen. So you are exactly correct. All right. So he already knew that Abimelech already knew their willingness to shed innocent blood was among the gravest charges that Jeremiah had brought against the king and his predecessor. So when I thought about that, I'm like, Abimelech, that was very, very good of you, because at this point, when you already know, king, you already been accused of doing things like this, but instead of me just letting everybody know that you're doing it still and you're doing it again, I'm just going to say these men, and then I let it go from there as to what you going to do next. So what he did next was, the king commanded Abimelech the Cushite, take 30 men from here with you and lift Jeremiah the prophet out of the cistern before he dies. So Abimelech to put him on the spot. So he already know he can't say, well, just leave him there. He can't say, when he the one stirring up trouble, so just let him die. He couldn't say any of that. So he had to go save his own face and seem like he was doing something, like he tricked me at first too, like he was doing something to say, hey, get 30 men from here and go get him out of there right now. But you're really the reason why he's down there from the beginning. But in public, he's going to tell them, go get these 30 men. So he wants it to stop what's in progress, and it doesn't really say how long he was actually down there. So I don't know if he had been down there for a day. I don't know if he had just got lowered down there. But it says when Abimelech heard what was going on. So I don't know if it was the the people walking back away from it bragging. I don't know if he was eavesdropping on their conversation about what they was finna do. I don't know. But he was down there. All right, it says, he was caught in difficulty of his own making with a failed attempt on Jeremiah's life, now exposed in public scrutiny. So the king gives orders to show that he is doing something about the situation. He will be able to claim that he saved Jeremiah's life. Very good. The king is likely surrounded by bodyguards, and they are likely the source of 30 men. But 30 men, let's see, it means 30 men. But he said take them from here. So we don't know if they were the king men or if they were just 30 men that they rounded up, because again, he's at the gate. So there's going to be surrounded by people, period. So don't know if they just all belong to the king or were they just 30 people that he saw in public. All right, so, but anyway, it says, springing into action. So Abimelech took the men with him and went to a room under the treasury in the palace. So not only did you throw this man in a cistern, you throw him into a special place in the cistern where probably nobody gonna find him. So we go into a room under the palace. Now we do know that the cistern is where they kept rainwater off, so it's probably gonna have to be somewhere that's lower anyway. But I have also seen some cisterns that were actually built like, not under palaces, but maybe above the ground. So some of them that were built, they were built to maybe have something on the inside, so when the rainwater went off, it wouldn't get as nasty with the mud and the dirt that's around it. But I'm pretty sure there still was like sediments or things that came from just being rainwater put in there. All right? And so he started going, this is identified as being under a treasury, a different room in the palace on a higher level. The reason they go there comes next. He took some old rags and worn out clothes from there and let them down with ropes to Jeremiah to the cistern. So he wasn't just thinking, he was thinking like, man, not only do I need to go get this man up, get him up, I need to find a safe way to get him up. Now we all know when we think about rope, just rope now, that's not treated or coated with anything. I know when I was growing up, all that rope was like, to me, tied together burlap, and it would like just burn your skin. And so that's what he was thinking about. Hey, even when I lower him down with this rope, we need to have something soft or something to go, or protected to go under his arm, so when he get ready to put it under there, it won't just scratch him up. And they didn't have all the medicine and stuff that they have now, that if you get rope burns or third-degree burns, where a doctor could treat it, if you came out with some burns and infections, that was really hard to treat it, and you can possibly die from it. So he was like, let me get Jeremiah up as safely as possible. All right, so then we come into the next one. Put these old rags and worn-out clothes under your arms to pad the ropes. And so Jeremiah did so. So when we think about, like I was saying, we don't know how long he was down there. He was long enough to be conscious enough to follow the directions of Elimelech. He hadn't passed out yet. So from starvation or dehydration or anything like that, he still was alert enough so that when they put these ropes under his arm, that he could actually tie them around himself, and then they can lift him up. Now think about how low something has to be for you to start getting ropes to have to actually crawl to carry them out. And then the rope is going to have to be long enough that not only when I lower it, I ain't just pulling you straight up. I need you to wrap around, and it got to come back up to me. So he probably was down pretty far. And it does talk about the cistern being underneath one of the princesses' places where they lived, where they resided, and they were part of the crew, or the Akul was against Jeremiah to go throw him down in there. So again, if you got these places that you're going to say, I know where we can put him. Ain't nobody going to go over there and bother that. Ain't nobody going to look for him over there. That is what Jeremiah was actually thrown into. All right? And so Jeremiah did so. And it says they pulled him up from the ropes and lifted him out of the cistern. And Jeremiah remained in the courtyard of the guard. So pulling him out of the cistern is surely a long and nerve-wracking procedure. And I'm pretty sure it depends on how far it was. Everybody probably was tired. I know Jeremiah probably was not only weak from not ever how long he been down there, because if I ain't ate like in a couple of hours, in about 6 hours, I'm like, man, I'm hungry. And so imagine if he been down there for at least 12, 13 hours or a day. He probably like, ugh. And he has had nothing to drink. And so I'm pretty sure he was very weak. He was very tired. So when they said they pulled him up out of there, he just remained there. So he didn't try to flee. He didn't try to run away from what was going on. And I thought that it was interesting that they put that in there simply because Jeremiah felt he had did nothing wrong, so what he running for? He hadn't did anything wrong. Everything he did was, King, you asked me what thus said the Lord. I told you. You just didn't like what I said. Your people didn't like what I said. But I have done nothing wrong. So it says that he did remain there. And then it says the epilogue of this story is that later Jeremiah calls Elimelech to the court of the prison where he is confined. The courageous officials told that he shall escape unharmed from Jerusalem's impending destruction when the Babylonians breach the walls. The Lord's message to deliver it is that because of the trust in the Lord, on that day I will serve you. On that day, the rescuer will be rescued. So Jeremiah remained there, still talked to the Lord, and then on one day he did call Elimelech back and let him know, hey, Elimelech, the Lord has a message for you, that he is going to save you. So Jeremiah didn't stop doing what he was doing. He didn't stop calling on the Lord. He kept on calling on the Lord for answers. He just kept on, doing what he should be doing. All right? Any questions or comments? Y'all, I'm literally at the conclusion. No questions, no comments? Okay, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm at the conclusion. All right, the third Jeremiah, Zedekiah, the plotting princesses, and Elimelech teaches several lessons. For Jeremiah, as with many of God's prophets, the task of accurately reporting the word of the Lord was a difficult path to walk. Jesus himself would later travel to Jerusalem and experience deadly resistance. Like the prophets of Israel's past, Jesus warned those who wish to be his disciple that they too shall face resistance, shall be asked to take up a cross in order to follow him. In the example of Zedekiah, we glimpse the consequences of cowardice, a caring only about public perception instead of seeking truth. God's plans may have disrupted the self-serving actions of Jerusalem nobles, but a king gesture has stepped in to protect Jeremiah and listen to God's message. Did not do it. Did not live up to his name. Elimelech is an example of courageous rescuer, one who risked the disapproval of his own boss to save the life of God's servants. And God responded to the individual's faithfulness, protecting him in the middle of a war zone. God is faithful to individuals, which is especially clear to those who are in desperate situations. Modern rescues may take place in the form of professionals with high-tech equipment and training. When someone needs physical rescue, we are taught to call these emergency services. But there are many other opportunities for believers to perform small acts of deliverance. For one another, giving financial assistance, offering care for children, and sitting with those experiencing tragedy or loss. A faithful rescuer should not give up. Elimelech risked his favorable position, perhaps even his life, to confront the king at the gate and direct Jeremiah's deliverance. He did what was right for someone who needed his help, and he did not look away. All right, our thought to remember. God might ask us to take risks to help others. In our prayer, oh, you're good. Okay, and before I read our prayer, the challenge that I do have for us, or for us to think about, and maybe we have done this, is that whether we feel we're going to lose social status or we might lose friends or something, when you see that there is injustice or wrong being done, speak up. Because sometimes we might have to speak up for a person who can't speak up for themselves, and then it might mean one of your friends or something saying, you help them out? Why you help them out? But if they need help, no matter what it may be to watch their kids. It may be they need an extra $10 on their light bill. It may be that they need, they have just lost something or someone that's very close or near to them. So we, as Christians, that is part of our job, is to be there for them. Now, I'm not going to tell them that your lights get cut off to go help somebody else, but you might be able to help somebody else in another way. Like I said, you might be able to know some people loses their animals, and it's a tragedy for them. So you can go out and help them, or go just sit with them. And sometimes people want you to just sit with them. You don't have to talk. It's just your presence is there. It's just really about you taking time out to let them know that you care. You don't always have to say something. Sometimes just let other people talk and just be there to listen to what they have to say. And sometimes people just want to get things off their mind or off their brain. So just let them just say it, and just say, okay, is there anything I can help you with? And if they say, no, you've done enough, just thank you for listening, then that's it. So even if it means you losing friendships or losing something, when people are in need, because you never know, really, in society, who might not like you just as much as your friend don't like that other person. And somebody might come to your rescue despite what their friends might say. So you should always, a Christian in us, we should always be there for other people that we see in dire need. So it might be that coworker that comes in, eats lunch, and go home. But you might notice that they're crying one day and everybody else is saying something mean or doing something mean to them. Now that I say that, I think about what happened about a month ago in Columbus about that boy with Amazon. Maybe somebody would have stepped up and just said, hey, y'all, leave this child alone. Like, leave him alone. I don't care if nobody else liked him. Leave him alone. He's doing nothing to you, no matter if he was different or not. So even if we see people are different, instead of jumping on the bandwagon, some of them friends that's probably picking, you probably know them personally. You can go tell them, hey, that ain't cool. Don't do that. Or why are you doing it? For what? He ain't bothering you. So sometimes just to let people know, or bring reality to people to let them know, hey, leave them alone. Or go sit with them at lunch and say, hey, how your day going? Hey, you don't want nothing. Just how's your day going so far? So it's okay to do things such as that, to be a friend to people you think that everybody else, or you see everybody else is not being friendly to, because they're probably not being friendly simply because they don't know them. And honestly, people don't like different. People don't like people that are different from them. Like, they just don't. If they don't think like they think, they don't walk like they walk, they don't dress like they dress, or they don't dress like they think that that person should be dressing. And so people can have any reason not to like a person, but you never know the impact you can have on somebody just by telling your friends or people you know, hey, that ain't cool, don't do that. So when we see people are in need, or we see people need our help, if you're able to help them financially, do that. I know I was praying the other day, I was like, Lord, one day I want to be a giver and not a borrower. So I would like to, hey, you need some money? Hey, I got you. And not always borrowing something from somebody. So that is something you can pray for. And once you get in that situation, hey, you give it freely, or I should say give it freely, let people borrow it freely. Or if you know they can't pay it back, and a friend of mine always told me, don't let a person borrow what you can't afford to give them. So I always keep that in mind for like the last 30 years, and I'm like, oh wow, that does make sense. So when you do things like that, do it freely from your heart. And what Elimelech did was from his heart. He didn't go out to embarrass the king, because he could have easily. He didn't go out to embarrass the king. He did it because he saw that Jeremiah truly needed help. So he didn't use his power, his position, or where the king was to embarrass him. He went out and truly said, hey, this man need help. And even though I know you had something to do with it, this man need help. Get him some help. So he knew to put himself in a situation where the king didn't have any other choice but to send help because of what was going on. So sometimes when we do things, we first of all, when we do it, we should always do it from the heart. And so that's just period. I don't care if you go bring no canned goods, like he said, do it from the heart. Don't be in there talking about, I got to get these folks my canned goods and I ain't got but 3 myself and he asking for 2. Don't bring it. Keep it at the house. Just don't do it. Just keep it at the house. So when you do things, you should always freely do it, not because you benefit from it. Because while it might not be you in the pantry this week, 2 or 3 years from now, it could be you. You don't know. Your child might need to benefit from it. Your grandchild, you don't know. So when you do things, do it freely and always do it from the heart with good intentions. Okay? All right, so prayer. It says, Lord God, give us some spiritual sight to see those who are struggling and whom we can help. May we never look away when we need to see suffering and injustice. We pray in the name of Jesus, our rescuer from the powers of sin and death. Amen.
I appreciate Deacon TV going over getting Juanita and them, but what we're gonna do, if we finish up early over here, we still gonna give the class over there their due time to 9:45, cause see, what happened is, they have to just cut it right off when TV go over. And I know I had just previously went over and they was really into it. So it's kinda unfair